Baseball and softball dipped in some out-of-conference play. Two teams desperate for success. How did they fare?
And the Quinnipiac men's lacrosse team took on the defending national champs. We'll have that recap and so much more. Sports Paws starts right now. Welcome into Sports Paws. Jack, you and I have sat behind this desk many times, but all great things must come to an end, so tonight is the last ride.
So much has happened over the past 2 years since we co-produced this show together. We are really excited to bring you the latest in Quinnipiac athletics one more time. We're going to start over on the diamond, where Quinnipiac baseball squared off against the Hartford Hawks for a break in MAC play last Tuesday. Bobcats are skidding, losers in 7 of their last 8, and they're going to send one of their young right-handers on to the mound. We're going to pick up right away in the bottom of the first inning. Danny Melnick's on second, and Ian Osberg going to line one right into the right field gap. That's going to allow Danny Melnick to score, and Quinnipiac jumps out to an early 1-0 lead. Osberg gets on second base. He thought about it, and you know what? Give that lasso a twirl. Quinnipiac is up. Top of the third inning, though, things are going to change drastically. Hartford is going to take a 4-1 lead, and part of that rally is Daniel Burnett singling home Noah Rivera to give the Hartford Hawks a 3-run lead in the fourth inning. But this is MAC baseball, Ryan. The game's not over after 4 innings. We got to play 9 full. And part of that 9 full is the 6th inning when Michael Cohn, team leading, 4th ding-dong. Look out over at the Field Hockey Stadium. Michael Cohen, absolute no doubter to give the Bobcats an insurance run in the bottom of the 6th. They're up 7-4. Things are going to start to go epically south for the Bobcats. Tremaine Cobb Jr., base hit. This is going to get through past the shortstop. That's going to allow the run to score. Game tied at 8 apiece. Ty Cobb Jr., Tremaine Cobb Jr., absolutely bringing it home. Free baseball from the Q. Bases loaded. Goes to third base, and the third baseman cannot make a clean throw. This allows the run to score, and the Bobcats commit 7 errors in a game in which they win. Your final from Hamden, Quinnipiac 9, Hartford 8. Big win for the Bobcats.
And after their exciting win on Tuesday, the Bobcats would look to get a streak going as they hosted MAC rivals Monmouth for a weekend series Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. The Bobcats dropped Game 1 Thursday 4-7, but fought back to win the weekend series. It was lucky number 13 for the Bobcats on the weekend. They beat the Hawks Friday 13-5 and put 13 more runs up on Saturday, winning 13-7. Kyle Maves and Danny Melnick both had 6 runs on the weekend. The Bobcats are back in action Tuesday versus Connecticut rival Central Connecticut. But before the Bobcats step up to the plate on Tuesday, let's see how they rank in the MAC standings. After the week series win, although Monmouth was not the best this weekend, they still sit at the number 1 spot. Fairfield, Canisius, and Ryder fill the next 3 spots. Quinnipiac sits in 8th place with a 9-20 record. The Bobcats will look to gain some strength in the standings as they still have series against Iona, Manhattan, St. Peter's, Fairfield, and Niagara still ahead.
Some big games coming up for the baseball team indeed. Hey, softball had a Wednesday matinee matchup with Bryant for an out-of-conference play. Quinnipiac would split with Manhattan and St. Peter's before taking on the Bulldogs. Bryant pitchers were mowing down Bobcat hitters. Quinnipiac could not muster a clean hit until the 5th inning when they exploded for 3 runs, aided by the first career hit and runs scored for first-year pitcher Sidney Horan. Horan's heroics at the plate and in the circle allowed the Bobcats to get a 3-2 come-from-behind victory, one that you have to think improves their morale drastically as they re-enter MAC play.
And after that win, Jack, I'll take it over from here. Quinnipiac would take on Ryder. The Quinnipiac softball team faced off against the Bronx on Saturday afternoon for some double-header MAC action. First-year Sidney Horan was in the circle. We fast forward to the bottom of the 3rd inning. Bronx led by 1 at this point, but Kayla Thomas would put the Bobcats back in the game with a single to right field. That would bring Bridget Nasser home and tie the game at 1. Moving on to the 4th inning, Ryder's Brooklyn Trujillo Quintana would throw a pitch high over Elena Gonzalez, allowing the opportunity for Gianna Palmisano to slide home. And then Bridget Nasser would come in clutch with a hit right up the middle to bring Carolyn Walker home, giving the Bobcats a 3-2 lead. What a slide there. From there on out, Sydney Horn would dominate and silence the Bronx offense, upsetting the number 1 seed in the MAC 3-2. Quinnipiac gets the dub in Game 1.
Sydney Horn is providing some much-needed relief to a pitching staff that struggled mightily.
She is a beast. We move on to Game 2 of the doubleheader. We'll jump right out to the top of the third. Riders Gianna Epps hit a ground ball right to Brooke Hilliard, and she tries to make the throw home. But Caitlin Vasquez beats the throw to the plate and gives the Bronx the early advantage. Ryder leads 1-0.
Emergency catcher. That's what happens. Sometimes some things get past you.
The Bobcats, though, would then strike right back as Kayla Thomas would send a moonshot to deep left field. That one would end up leaving the ballpark, tying the game at 1. See ya. Game tied at 1. Thomas making her trot around the bases. There we go. Big celebration coming. Oh, there we go.
Give the Bobcat a roar.
Top of the 7th inning now. The celebration would not last long as Ryder would reclaim its lead in the 7th with Elena Gonzalez double down the right field foul line, and that would bring Lanny Moreno home to the plate. Ryder taking the 2-1 lead, and that would do it for the Bobcats as they could not get anything going in the bottom of the 7th. The Bronx took Game 2 by a score of 2-1. The two teams split the Saturday doubleheader.
Hey, 4 of their last 7, and all of a sudden, Quinnipiac is out of the cellar in the MAC. The Bobcats jump to 8th in the conference, which puts them in playoff positioning for now. Ryder, Canisius, Siena, and Iona all hold 7-3 records atop the MAC. 3 of the Bobcats' next 4 opponents are above them in the standings. It's time for them to prove it if they're really worth getting into the postseason.
And Jack, it is not every season that you see the Bobcats get to square off against the defending national champs. But that's exactly what we got this weekend as Quinnipiac traveled to Virginia to take on the Cavaliers. Number 6 ranked Cavaliers and the Bobcats. Starting out in the first quarter. We'll get started right away as John DeLucia speeds his way past Grayson Salade and fires a shot into the back of the net. How about that? Quinnipiac jumping out to an early 1-0 lead against the defending national champs. Good news for the Bobcats. However, the Bobcats' lead would not last for long as Will DePalma's pass was intercepted by Xavier Dixon. He would find P.D. LaSala, whose shot would be denied by Nick DiMuccio, but Connor Schellenberger would put that one back, tying the game at 1. Schellenberger, he had quite the day. It's Schellenberger again who will sprint past all the Bobcats and beat DiMuccio for the second time around to give the Cavaliers the lead. Schellenberger would eventually end the day with a hat trick. Virginia up 2-1. Virginia tacked on 4 more goals before the end of the first period to give them a 5-point cushion, but it was the Bobcats who struck first in the second quarter as Ryan Donnery found an open Will Abbott over the middle. He hits it upper left corner. Virginia leads 6-2. Nonetheless, Virginia's strong offense was too much for Quinnipiac to keep up with the Cavs. The Cavs scored a total of 9 goals in the second period, and how about Xavier Dixon, who scored 4 of the 9 goals? Virginia up 15-2, and Xavier Dixon would continue his dominant performance in the third quarter. The Bobcats would attempt for a comeback, but they'd fall short as the Cavaliers would take the contest. Final score, 21-9.
Well, in the other locker room, the women's lacrosse team has dropped 6 of their last 8 after a hot start to their season in general. They look to start to bail water against Siena on Wednesday. Taking a 2-goal lead into the final 10 minutes of play, Quinnipiac allowed 5 Saints to find the back of the net and fell 13-12. Desiree Kleberg potted 3 goals on her own to put her season total up to 27, while 7 other Bobcats scored at least once. Mary Sources for Siena led the Saints in scoring with 6 goals of her own. Quinnipiac has not beat Siena since 2014.
And Quinnipiac would look to break their 5-game losing streak as they traveled to Buffalo, New York to take on Canisius on Saturday. It was a close one between the two MAC rivals. Canisius outshot the Bobcats 32-23, but a 4-goal performance by Sydney Skalstad kept the Bobcats in the game and had the two teams tied at 9 at the end of regulation. Overtime was a defensive battle that did not see a goal until Canisius sophomore Caroline Nettie called game with 38 seconds left in overtime, giving the Golden Griffs a 10-9 win. A sloppy game saw double-digit turnovers by both teams. The Bobcats will look to work on that issue before they take on Iona in their final road game of the season on Wednesday. With more on Quinnipiac lacrosse, we now go to lacrosse beat reporters Mike Hanley and Emily Sweeney.
Thanks, guys. I'm Emily Sweeney alongside Michael Hanley. We are here outside of the Quinnipiac Soccer and Lacrosse Stadium. We're getting ready to break down some women's and men's lacrosse for you guys. The women's and men's lacrosse teams have gone through almost their entire season with only a couple games left before the end, so we're going to break that down for you. Now, Michael, starting with the men's lacrosse team, how do you think they've done this season?
Well, clearly the men's lacrosse team hasn't been doing that well. The Bobcats really need to pick it up. I mean, you can look at the last game they had against Virginia. It was not Division I lacrosse. It was a 9-21 loss. That's usually unheard of.
Now, after the big loss, how can the Bobcats learn and improve going into their final games of the season?
Well, the Bobcats just have to take it back to basics. They've been missing a lot of shots on net, a lot of ground balls. It doesn't look like Division I lacrosse to me. I mean, they really just have to regroup, reorganize, and just really push into the next game.
Right, and going into the future, what do you expect from the Bobcats with their final games and ending their season?
Honestly, Emily, I'm not expecting much. They've been playing pretty shoddy lately. Hopefully they can regroup and kind of pick it up for the last couple games.
All right, so we've talked about men's lacrosse. Now we're going to transition to some women's lacrosse. Now, Michael, I hear you got some questions for me about the Bobcats women's lacrosse team.
I sure do, Emily. How do you think the team's been looking so far?
I think the women's lacrosse team has been pretty iffy lately. They started off their season with the best start to a season that they have had in years. Their best start to a season ever. And that kind of went downhill a little bit. They're on a 6-game losing streak right now, which is obviously not where they wanted to be. It's not where Coach Tanya Kotowicz thought this team was going. She talked a lot about how they have youth in this team and it's a development year, but she also expected a lot from them. But she also says that the team is resilient and they can move forward from this. So I think they're taking a lot of these games as learning opportunities going forward.
Okay, speaking of going forward, any standout players you think are really going to help the team in the last couple games?
Yeah, I think in the last couple games we've seen a couple standout players. I mean, you have Desiree Clayberg. She's the lead scorer on the team. She's got 17 goals on this season. She's an incredible offensive player with great power. You've also got Sydney Skalstad. She has 15 goals on the season. She's another high scorer for the team. Their offensive power, especially together, has been something the Bobcats have really held on to and really capitalized on. I also think that you have to give credit to Kat Henselder, the goalie for the lacrosse team. She has had an okay season. She has a .481 save percentage, which doesn't sound great, but it is pretty average for women's lacrosse. And on top of that, she has also had one of the best seasons she's had. She comes up when they really need her to save goals. She might not get all of the saves, but she gets the ones that really matter in most scenarios, which is what you can ask for from a goalie, especially when you have a defense that hasn't been playing their best lately.
Okay, so what do you think the team needs to work on going forward?
I think there's a couple of things they can work on. I think one of the most important things is draw control in the second half of the game. We've been watching these games, and lately, their draw control, they've gotten the draws in the beginning of the games, they've gotten goals, they've taken the lead, but then when you get into the second half, they're struggling with taking draw control, which is then going to struggle in getting goals because you don't have possession of the ball. In their game against Siena, which they played a couple of days ago, they were in the lead by 6 goals, and they ended up losing that game 13-12 because late in the game, they were not winning the draw controls. So although they are winning average amounts of draw controls and they're almost equal to their opponents, they're winning the draw controls when it doesn't really matter as to when they're losing when it really matters and they need that goal.
All right, thanks, Emily.
All right, guys, we're going to send it back to you at the desk.
Thanks, Mike and Emily. Great stuff and lots more to come when we return.
Don't go anywhere. When we get back, we'll take a look at some golf and tennis. Stay with us. Sports Paws right here.
What do you think you're doing, Kevin?
Was just gonna drive home.
There are several warning signs present that you shouldn't be driving.
Like hearing voices.
Like your text-to-emoji ratio?
Oh man, the selfies.
Selfie, nailed it.
We all have warning signs that let us know that we're probably not okay to drive. Mine is pretending to be your subconscious.
Craig, come on man, let's split a ride home.
Multiple studies have shown that marijuana can slow both driver reaction and response time, which can be really dangerous. He's here. He's here. Wait. What? I can't drive. Why? My. Oh.
If you need to do something to feel okay to drive, you're not okay to drive. Don't drive buzzed.
Well, thanks for sticking with us. As promised, we head out to the greens to take a look at how QU golf fared this week. It was quite the week for Fu Zhang, who was named the MAC Golfer of the Week. Zhang tied for a 6th place finish in the field of 69 at the Hoya Invitational hosted by Georgetown. This marks Zhang's second top 10 finish of the season. She finished 12 over par thanks to an incredible 2 over par performance in round 1, which marked her second best round of her college career. This weekly award is the first award of the first year's young career.
Last week, the golf team went to Sacred Heart for an in-state invitational. Quinnipiac was unable to compete as a team, but it didn't stop Mia Gerwinski from taking home 3rd place, shooting 9 over. Darby Lillibridge entered round 2 in 2nd place, shooting a 76 on day 1, but finished at 12 over to claim 4th place. With just 3 entered in the Sacred Heart invite meant that the rest of the team could compete at Hartford over the weekend. 2 Bobcats netted top 10 finishes from Kaylee Skoda and Mia Gerwinski once again. Skoda shot 79 on day 1, but recovered nicely on day 2, shooting 3 over to claim 2nd place, while Gerwinski tied for 9th, shooting 81 on both days. The MAC tournament will begin this Friday at the Walt Disney Resort in Florida, where Quinnipiac is favored to repeat as MAC champions. We're now going to go to Ben Kane, who sat down with Junior Leanne Peralti of the golf team to talk about the team's expectations heading into this weekend's playoff rounds.
Thanks, guys. I'm joined by golf team member Leanne Peralta to talk about her season so far, as well as some of the expectations heading forward. So, Leanne, first, thank you for joining us. First, going to ask you, how has your season gone so far?
Thank you for having me. Our season is going pretty well. I think we broke a few records, and I think we have a strong team going into championships, so we'll work hard and see what happens.
Now, as a beat reporter, I've seen that a lot of teams have very different dynamics, some good, some very good. How is the dynamic within your team?
I think our team is pretty good. We all love our coach. He treats us very well individually. He doesn't treat us as just golfers. He sees us as more than that. And I know my teammates, I can rely on them for anything, and I know they trust me with the same, so I think it's good. It's good trust.
Now, you kind of bring up like this family kind of unit. Obviously, last weekend, half of your team was in Georgetown. You guys got 7th in the tournament, as well as the other half was in Sacred Heart with 2 out of the top 4. Being from Quinnipiac, how difficult is it to keep up that family bond when one team is in one state and the other team is in the other state? What happens?
I think we just trust each other. We all put in the same work. So I think being separated isn't that big of a deal. I think we all just trust the hard work that we put in. Hopefully we get the results that we want.
And then talking about going to different states, it's very hard for some people to kind of go out and watch you guys as you are, sometimes in Maryland, sometimes in Florida. So how does your team create this type of buzz and energy around them to kind of propel them when they're competing?
I think it definitely starts in the weight room. We're very pumped in the weight room. We all push each other, and at practice, if one person is working hard, it just creates a chain reaction. So I think having that high energy from the start just carries on to a game.
Now, kind of switching over to, obviously you're from California. What type of differences do you notice playing in Connecticut rather than California?
Well, the weather, first of all. California is just sunny all year round. And it's been hard to golf in the snow, being inside for 3 months, but we have to make do and work with what we've got. We're just blessed to have the technology that we have in the sim room. Just work with what we got.
Now, obviously, you talked about those bonds and those hardships they kind of go through, but what is it like to have some teammates who are from California who are going through the exact same you're going through right now?
I think it's good having other people who are pretty much struggling with you, just knowing that we're all in this together and we're all far from home, but we have each other at the end of the day, so I think that's the most important thing.
Now, obviously, you are a junior on this team, and you've seen the highs of it as you guys won the MAC last year, so how have you seen this team progress over the 3 years that you've been here?
It's definitely been a journey. We've worked so much harder from when I first came to now. Just in the weight room and practice, we're all working our hardest, trying to get more wins, break more records, and keep moving forward.
Now, golf is one of those really mental games where anything can just get in your head and just stick there for a long time. And as a team who hasn't gotten a first place finish since October, how have you not let this affect you when you're trying to make a putt on every hole or trying to drive and make sure you do get it that good distance and you do win the fairway?
I think it's most important to just take every shot just one at a time. Forget all the bad shots, forget the bad holes, like start every hole is like a new slate, just a total refresh, just moving forward from there.
So trying to keep that level head, obviously you guys are tipped to win the MAC once again. How do you not let that added pressure affect you in the same way?
I think we should just treat it as any other tournament. I mean, it is one of the bigger tournaments, but going into it, like just trusting our game, trusting all the hard work that we've put in all season, and just trusting the work that we put in.
And obviously golf at Quinnipiac is coming bigger and bigger, and you're getting a lot more attention from the school as well as the community around it. So what are your goals for the program, both on the course as well as off the course, by the time you leave?
I think just getting more publicity, getting the word out there that we are here and we're here to win. Yeah.
Well, thank you, Leanne. We're going to send it back to the desk now.
Thank you.
And after finishing the regular season against Fairfield this weekend, the Bobcats will focus their attention this week to the MAC Championship, set to tee off this Friday at 9 a.m. in Lake Buena Vista, Florida, at the beautiful Disney Magnolia Golf Course. All 14 MAC teams will be in attendance to take on the 3-round, 54-hole weekend.
Quinnipiac men's tennis is the second team to enter postseason play. The Bobcats finished the season at 7-11, but are winners in 3 of their last 4. The Bobcats are set to match up against the number 3 seeded Siena Saints when the tournament begins on Friday. Quinnipiac was last in the championship in 2019 when they lost to Monmouth 4-0, and Monmouth has been to the last 7 MAC championships dating back to 2014.
From the men's to the women's side, Quinnipiac women's tennis will also head to West Windsor, New Jersey for the MAC championships this weekend. Quinnipiac secured the 1 seed and will match up against Niagara on Saturday. The winner of that will go on to face the winner of Siena and Fairfield in the championship on Sunday. This is the second consecutive year Quinnipiac has secured the number 1 seed headed into the tournament. They lost in the championship to Siena last year. Although the goal is to win the MAC championship, the Bobcats had some early celebrations after being named regular season co-champions along with Siena. Both teams finished with a 5-1 record within the MAC. Overall, Quinnipiac finished with a 10-8 overall record, while Siena's record was 10 wins and 11 losses.
The women's track and field team went to James Madison University. Hey, we actually got to go take our second break of the evening, but when we come back, hey, there's some transfer news for both basketball teams. Who did they add? We've got that for you.
And also some big hockey news, some players and former alumni getting called up to the big leagues. Tune in. We'll be right back.
When we adopt a shelter pet, we discover they're a unique mix of all kinds of things.
Come on, Drew, spot on this last one. There it is. Keep going with it. Leo.
They're a little bit of a lot of things, but they're all pure love.
I know what you're thinking. I need a job. I need a new career.
Well, I've been there.
I've been there.
I've been there. I wasn't happy with what I was doing.
After high school, I didn't have a plan.
I just wanted to start working. I got laid off twice, but you gotta keep going.
You just need the right skills. Find an apprenticeship.
I found a 2-year IT program.
I found a medical course online.
I'm now a consultant in the tech space.
You have more options than you think. You can do this.
You will find something.
You will find something new.
Maybe you can make retirement happen. After all, you made home ownership happen. Homeschooling yourself on loans, beefing up your credit score.
So I'm pre-approved.
You were like, yes! Sorry. Color coding listings, ticking boxes, and flushing every toilet in a 20-mile radius. Home sweet home. You aced house hunting. Now get the tips you need to get on track at aceyourretirement.org.
It's the home stretch here on this Monday night edition of Sports Paws. Thank you for sticking with us. Both Quinnipiac basketball programs have been hit with the transfer bug, but both teams were able to add new pieces for their grad years. The men's team welcomed Ike Nuke to the squad. The grad spent his undergrad at Columbia, averaging 16.9 points and 6 rebounds across 10 games this past season. Columbia finished dead last in the Ivy League this past season with a 4-22 record. Nuke stands at 6'7" and 250 pounds. He adds some much-needed size to the front court after Kevin Marfo's departure. In the other locker room, the women's team added Mary Bakerville out of Providence. The Connecticut native averaged 7 points and 5.5 rebounds on 43% shooting this past season. Baskerville will join a loaded backcourt that already features former MAC Player of the Year Mackenzie DeWeese. Jackie Grisdale is going to be entering her sophomore year, and the transfer Mackenzie Helms. And Rose Caverly, who, speaking of Rose Caverly, just announced this past morning that she is returning to Quinnipiac for a 5th year. The senior was a transfer in from the University of Vermont after the 2018-2019 season and was immediately thrown into the mix in her first year of eligibility with the Bobcats. Caverly earned MAC All-Third Team during the 2020 COVID-shortened season. Caverly returned to Quinnipiac as the top assist man, dropping a team-high 126 dimes this past season. While Caverly's shooting stats took a dip, she put up a career-high 26 points against the Boston College in the second round of the WNIT, the game that they were eventually eliminated in.
Well, although it feels like Quinnipiac women's ice hockey just finished their season, it's already time to look forward to the next class of incoming Bobcats. The Bobcats announced 6 new additions to the squad who went to 2 overtimes with the national champions just a few weeks ago. The class of 2026 features Madison Chantler from London, Ontario, Canada, a member of the U18 national team, Tiana McIntyre, a defenseman from Hailing Park City, Utah, Lucy Phillips, a goalie from Nova Scotia, also selected to Canada's U18 national team, and Zoe Jens, a defenseman from Canada, named last summer to Canada's Next Generation 2003 team. The Bobcats will hope this class is the bump they need to take home the national championship. Moving from the hardwood to the ice, QU hockey defenseman Oliver Chow has made the jump from college to the pros, signing with the Tuscan Roadrunners. The AHL affiliate of the Arizona Coyotes has been quite the easy transition for Chow, who registered 2 points in his first 3 games in the new Threats. After finishing game 1 with no points, Chow tallied assists in both games 2 and 3 in 42 games with the Bobcats this season. Chow registered 13 goals and 20 assists. Well, Jack, this usually is the season for hockey debuts, but it's not every day we get to see a former Quinnipiac hockey star get called up to the NHL as a referee. Jordan Samuels-Thomas graduated Quinnipiac in 2013, tallying 104 points in 148 NCAA games. Samuels-Thomas was drafted to the NHL by the Atlanta Thrashers in the 2009 entry draft. After a few seasons as a player, he made the shift to referee, and after spending majority of the season in the American Hockey League, he was called up to the big leagues. He made his NHL debut April 14th as the Blackhawks and Sharks faced off in a game featuring 2 black officials for the first time ever. Thomas is only the league's 3rd ever black official. Well, it is time for one final top 5 in our career, Jack. So what do you say? You take the odds, I'll take the evens.
I think that's probably a fair bet. Play number 5. This is baseball against Hartford. Michael Cohn got a fastball on the inner part of the plate, and that is an automatic trip around the bases for Michael Cohn. That was his team-leading 4th home run, a solo blast, and that gave the Bobcats a 7-4 lead at the time. Winners in walk-off fashion.
And back to baseball now, but this time against Monmouth. Catcher Danny Melnick hits a rocket to left field and ties the game at 4. We're coming right back to this inning in the same game for the next play.
Yeah, and that next play right here, let's get that thing pulled up. Beauty at number 3. Sean Swenson, left field for another 2-run Jimmy Jack. Swenson would circle around the bases, 5 runs with 2 outs in the inning. Bobcats win this one in big fashion, 13-5.
Play number 2, softball, hitting a home run versus Ryder. Kayla Thomas joins the fun in left field with a blast. Goodbye, see ya, rocket. Except Ryder would go on to win that one 2-1.
Well, you know what? Bobcats would win against Hartford on our final top 5 play. Look at this. Look at this roar, by the way. You ever? They cut it off.
Didn't get to see it.
The producer, we wouldn't have done that our year. Play number 1, walk-off fashion for the Bobcats. Ground ball, third base. The throw is up the line. The Bobcats win in dramatic fashion, 9-8. That play made me late to my 6:30 class last Tuesday night.
Although Sports Paws will be back next week for another great show, this is the end of the line for us, Jack. It's been quite the ride here with Q30 Sports, and I could not be happier to end it with someone I started with when me and Jack were associate producers for this show just 3 years ago. To all the producers, Q30 presidents, sports directors, reporters, and everyone behind the scenes, thank you for making this such a fun ride. And of course, none of it would be worth it if it were not for you guys watching at home. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I will truly miss it.
This show was the first Q30 show I ever appeared on in March of 2019, and the first show I produced on alongside Coop, as he alluded to. The late hours, early mornings, long trips, and at times the criticism was all worth it to deliver you what you need to know at Quinnipiac. For one final time, for Ryan Coop, I'm Jack Main.